It's the Kraig Show. It's the Kraig Show. He's making me do this. It's the Kraig Show. It's the Kraig Show.
Welcome to For the Story podcast, the podcast that makes grown men cry and little girls grow up into beautiful women. I'm Kraig, the renegade guest host for the evening, and I'm here with the commander of the vessel, Asher.
Thank you for the glowing endorsement, both of the podcast and me as a person.
And the sudden promotion.
Avery,
I made you captain, you know?
Yeah.
You're officially in charge now.
Oh, good. I was kind of worried that the Avery was taking my fire, but now...
No, it's locked. It's
now,
locked down.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally changed the terms of his lease so he would be moving while we were recording, and... Now it's
right.
just you and me. So, yeah, I mean, Kraig, why don't for those of my listeners who wouldn't know who you are, which they should at this point, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you do?
I live in sunny Portland, Oregon, and originally from the Midwest, Wyoming, according to Spencer, my co-host on the podcast that I generally inhabit. Idiots Discuss the Universe, which is just wildly available if you get anywhere near a computer. So make sure that you check that out.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I mean, I deal a little weed, and I do a little writing on the side, and yeah, just kind of hold it down in Portland, Oregon.
Didn't you write a movie?
Yes, I do have a screenplay that is in post-production right now. Kind of limited on what I can say about it at this point. But yeah, that was a super interesting experience to see like things that you wrote on a screen. Yeah, it's just having actors like do the things that you write.
On a different
having
screen.
Actors like put life into your words. As a writer I've been a writer for a long time, and I've got a novel that I'm shopping around in different things. But that was the first time that ever happened, and so that was pretty cool. And it's going to be a really interesting film, I think, when it's done.
All right. Does it? Do we have a name that we can put out?
No, not yet. I can't do a name yet.
Okay.
But it is going to be something like the outlaw Josie Wales meets the Road Warrior. That's
okay. So if you see a movie with a title, it could possibly be Kraig's movie, and you should give it some love. Is that
yes?
enough
That's about all that we can share at this point. Yeah, but yeah. But when the time comes,
That's
you will
awesome.
definitely be well informed. Good God, yes, you'll be well informed that is. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, most of the world will have no idea, but you personally will be very well informed about it. Yes.
Well, we got like kind of a small art housey kind of movie. I mean, granted, probably bigger budget than what you, but you might bring in a similar domestic total to the movie we watched this week, which was the Autopsy of Jane Doe, a horror movie by God, what's his? It's got like an umlaut or something in it. Yeah, it's by that guy.
The Andre Oradal, the Trollhunter, the Trollhunter guy.
Yeah, he's doing Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark,
Oh,
which is coming out
okay.
next month. Based on the R.L. Stein book, but they're like, instead of being an anthology, fuck you
We're
guys.
just gonna
It's a
take
normal movie
this
now.
classic and do our own thing with it. Just change it.
Yeah.
Just change
Remember
it
how-
completely. You know, because we paid the rights for the story and the title, and that's all we want.
Yeah, I mean that's what they did with the Last Airbender,
Oh
that
my
Shyamalan
God.
movie.
They did. Oh my
Have you
God!
seen
Yes,
that?
I still I'm comfortable a little bit. Just still a little pain from that one.
There's some there's something about like the lead actor in that movie where he kind of looks like a doll that a child painted, like a porcelain doll.
Yes,
And it's
and it's just so yeah, it's a fun one to watch without sound, and just like there's certain scenes it just is, it's better without sound. And it just kind of reaches this level of total ridiculousness if you just kind of forget that, because you forget that it's a Last Airbender movie pretty quickly because it's so unrelated to like what I know of the source material. Um, and it's just so I mean, the supporting characters are also like ridiculous in their own right. The young bad character, I don't know what that guy's name is, but
you can't even call him a bad guy or a
no,
villain. He's just the
he was
bad
just a bad
character.
character. He wasn't really a villain. He was
That's
just
all the characters.
he was a
They're all
menace
bad
because he was so
characters.
poorly written.
Yeah, and like he had like that big his Last Airbender has this energy of like you're with your boys, you're pre-gaming, you have a movie on in the background, but you can't really hear it, and you guys tell each other that you're gonna go out, and then you never end up going out because like someone brought a joint and like ruined everyone's night. That's kind of like
Yeah, kind of like that. You know, I mean, I saw it. I was on a date when I saw that, and I just
God.
watched that movie and I just drove her home. You know, it was just over. That was the date. The date.
Just
the
abject silence.
Yeah, the
on the
entire
drive home.
association with that person was just best to like. It's just kind of we're done. We're not going to dig ourselves out of that. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Shyamalan
It
twist.
was for me. It was for me.
So we like to start every week off talking about like movies we saw this week and whether we recommend them or not. Have you seen anything this week that really stuck out to you, or even before this week? Because no one knows what you watched before then, so you can lie. It's fine.
Man, I've watched. I'm really woefully behind on movies, to be honest. But I've watched some movies recently for sure. I watched Incredibles 2.
How'd you like that?
It wasn't as heavy-handed with the whatever that is, that political socio message as I thought it was going to be to start out with, and I was impressed.
It's a lame message to begin with. Like,
But I thought it was fine. You know, I mean, I thought it was fine. As far as superhero movies go, it was better than most of them. And I watched it with my mother, so that kind of like put it in, like it was a good one to watch with your mother, I guess.
yeah, it's a cute movie. I mean, what did you think of the choice to put it in media res, like right after the first movie, but you know that it's been 10 years? Like, was that dumb or was that just me?
I accepted it. I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't really think about that too much. But I think that that's really the only way that that was the easiest storytelling way of doing it, in a way.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I just think it's like because they did the whole Underminer thing at the end of the first one, and they're like, we're gonna start with that, but it's not gonna be a real thing. It's gonna be like a background thing to our very very poorly named villain in this movie.
Oh,
It's terrible. What was it Screenslaver?
yeah, Screenslaver was terrible. But I think that they did it for storytelling ease and also to like potentially lengthen out the movies, in the sense that like the kids aren't older yet and they can have their own movies later, and there can just be, you know, generations of Incredibles movies if they take it slow, you know. And that
Yeah, I mean, I think
and that
that's
goes
fair.
into everything that Disney touches. You know, they're playing the long game. They're like China. They're like the China of Hollywood, in the sense that they're playing the long game.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a weird correlate. Let's see. This week I watched Don't Knock Twice. Have you seen this?
I know
movie?
nothing of it.
Okay, so it is a movie. It's a horror movie. I want to say from 2016. For some reason, horror movies have this thing with like the back bridge that gymnasts do, where they think it's like terrifying. I think that someone just was like traumatized because they got told about their parents' divorce when they were at a circus or something. Like, but I see, yeah, like that was the cover that they had on Netflix. I'm like, all right, I'll watch this. Really effective jump scares. Like at one point, I was like in my bed by myself, like, and I was just like, no, I'm done, and I just like turned it off after a jump scare.
Wow,
but
that is really effective. That's yeah. Saying something.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I was delirious. Maybe I was, who knows?
High on
really
methamphetamine.
Here, like, no, because I'd be cleaning that, and my room was a mess at the time.
Yeah, that's good for cleaning. That is good for cleaning.
Yeah, what comedians makes that joke about like, hey, if you want a clean apartment, you gotta get a roommate who does meth.
That's absolutely true. I knew a policeman once that said like the way that we would bust people in my hometown of Casper, Wyoming for like meth is they would just drive around at night and look for people that were like out in their front yard cleaning like engine parts with a flashlight, and they knew that those people were high on meth.
I thought that was going to go in a way I thought you were going to go straight to like, yeah, they'd bust into people's houses if they were too clean. Those guys were in jail. Those guys spent the night in the clinker. Had a blood test done.
I'm sure that would be grounds for them to search your house in that town for sure. Those cops are, they don't mess around. Those small town cops. Yeah.
Oh no. My ex actually told me this story about like a guy who like was on the force. His wife cheated on him. He murdered his wife and framed the guy, and like he'd been on death row for like 20 years, and then they were just retrying it. She's like, yeah, you always have to wave at the cops like when we were in our hometown. I'm like, no, I'm good. Yeah. Like, what if it's that guy?
It's a strange thing, and that sort of stuff happens more often than is even. I mean, I think that you're just seeing like the tip of the iceberg sort of deal with that. Cop crime for sure. There's a bunch of it.
Oh yeah. Last episode I was quoting crazy cop statistics to Avery where I was just like, yeah, 40% of them are in domestic violent relationships. He's like, that's really high. I'm like, yes it is.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense lifestyle, so some of that is to be because essentially you drive around in a car and you go to like people's like worst moments of their lives, like one after another all day long, and that's what you do. Like when it just gets to that point that they're going to tell like 2 or 3 stories of why everything went bad in their life, and that's going to be one of them that you arrive at every time. And
unless it's just a parking ticket, which is what most cops
I guess
do.
That's true.
Especially in cities. Like in cities it's a lot of like, well, it's the end of the month, I need to hit my quota.
I guess there's a lot of that going on too, for sure.
LA County, I'm just like, my mom's like, what? I'm driving safe. Like I'm in the car with her. I'm like, no, it's the end of the month. There's a cop next to you. Don't take this turn. just chill. Wait a couple days. Then it's all right.
Yeah, they'll go back to it's But once you reach a certain age, you're fine. They just don't care anymore. I can go back to my hometown and do whatever I want, and they just don't care. It's I'm in that silver beard. They see that, and they just like, okay, you're fine.
Yeah, and like the very, very weird, esoteric kind of boomery bumper stickers. Do you have one?
No, I just have like a.
My other dog's my
What
wife.
do I have? Like... I just have like a little map of Oregon. Because I just have to like make sure that my car fits in with all the other cars. It's really the same little sticker that everybody from Oregon has on the back of their car.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have anyone go like, oh, so where are you from? You just have to like get that out of the way, because otherwise they'll be like, oh, you're one of the bad ones.
Yeah, I had Wyoming stickers on the back of my car or the back window of my car, but my back window just got smashed out, and I can't imagine that has anything to do with each other, but yeah.
I mean, let's face it, no one knows what Wyoming's shape is. They think that it's modern art, and maybe they're just not a fan of
I'm sure that
art.
There was just some like Antifa guy that kind of knew geography well enough to realize that was going to be in the big red portion of the state of the country, and then he just smashed that shit up.
To be fair, you guys do have way too many senators for your population. I know the law and all that, but you guys shouldn't have two senators.
I mean,
Isn't it the least populous
Yes,
state?
it is the least populous state. But again,
Yeah, you are the enemy.
but
You're right.
again,
I'm
like
sorry.
we live in a representational democracy, and if you didn't like the deal, you didn't have to sign it into law, you know. And now we're just kind of playing by the
Oh,
rules.
I did. I had. I don't know what job you think I have, but I don't sign laws typically.
Or-
I'm a
Wyoming's just
podcaster.
playing by the rules that God gave it. That's all. That's all. We may have a couple extra. We may have an
Okay.
extra senator than what we really need. You know, actually, we don't even really need one. We would barely qualify for one if we lived in. If we're,
You should just vote in another
yeah,
state.
so
Like,
it is
I
kind
don't.
of like being a king when you vote in Wyoming, but it
Did you keep your voter registration way too long when you moved to Oregon?
no, it didn't matter there. It all everything goes to the Republican Party. I mean, I was a Democrat
Ugh.
in Wyoming, so that was just absolutely like just a pointless existence as far politically. They had some
Yeah, I mean, like on a municipal level, I'm sure that something
no,
could change. But yeah,
no,
statewide
no,
level,
not
no.
even on. I mean, even on the municipal level, the guys that would run for the Democrats were kind of like the liberals that you would see on like Fox and Friends or like some talk show like that.
Oh, like just
They,
the
yeah, they
walkover. Like they actually have more Republican ideals than Democratic ideals, and just kind of get stomped on, just
right. It's
sheepish.
like the Washington Generals playing the Harlem Globetrotters. You know, they just bring in these five white dudes that just can barely play basketball, and they stick the Harlem Globetrotters on them. And that is like the Democrats are the Washington Generals in Wyoming. Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
That's
No,
pretty.
it's
Yeah,
yeah. They got
respectable.
the Republicans have to sew up those extra two senators. You know, for sure. That's a big.
Yeah,
That's a piece.
yeah. They got to run against someone who's truly a moron. Like that's just how life works. Anyway, so this movie, this movie I watched, it had the actress who played Starbuck on the reboot of Battlestar
Okay.
Galactica, and it was about a witch, and it not really that interesting, but kind of fun. I just like the way it was
What
shot,
time?
and
What time period
know,
was it set in?
I don't know, like I guess modern times, and like every time a character left the screen, I kept going, I swear to God, did they have a British accent?
Oh,
Like,
so using
like I
that
just
that
yeah, I
that
couldn't tell.
stage accent sort of thing that they were doing maybe.
I don't even think I think they just felt very British, but everyone whenever they were on screen like had a very American accent. I'm like, okay, did they just go from a British scene? Because I am very confused. Um, yeah, it was weird. It was shot well though, and it had the Baba Yaga, which I think is always a good thing.
That is one of my favorite supernatural baddies. So maybe I'll check that one out. I've
Oh
been
yeah,
kind of into the horror stuff lately. Um,
they've been getting better, man. They've been
absolutely.
getting a lot better. I mean, I think the movie we watched this week was kind of an example of that. I mean, it had its
Yeah,
issues, but
it had.
definitely
I thought it was overall like just really fun. You know, I had a good time with it.
yeah.
It kind of had some kind of like fun in the way that like a Carpenter film is fun. Maybe not.
Yeah, yeah. It was okay, well we might as well start getting
Sure.
into talking about it. We usually talk about the budget. We'll just keep it real short because I have no real information. It cost $1.5 million. It made $10,000 in the United States and $6 million worldwide. It's the 488th highest ranking horror film in terms of gross domestic box office, and had Brian Cox in it. That's all that's interesting.
Oh, and Emil Hirsch. Don't forget
Just,
Emil Hirsch.
oh, Emil Hirsch, of
He's a
course.
name, right?
Not really. I think Brian Cox was
Oh,
definitely
you
the
think
name of
so?
this
I thought
movie.
Emil Hirsch would be the top billing for that because of Speed Racer. I mean, he's got Speed Racer.
The
Well,
new
no, the
one?
old one.
Well, I guess.
The
Oh, okay.
the Matrix Brothers Speed Racer. Emil Hirsch was one of the guys in that, which was a horrible movie, but super high budget and high profile. I don't know, and I've always thought of
I never
oh
saw it. I
oh,
never
it's just
thought that.
horrible. You have to see it. Yeah, no, it's just horrible. But Brian
Oh,
Cox is I don't know. He's more of like a character. He carried the movie. He was the best part of the movie, I think.
oh, I think honestly, I think the best part of the movie was the fact that that lady was doing her own body double the whole time.
Oh, that is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because especially like the posing and just like looking disconcerting like that. It was pretty odd. Anyway, what were your expectations going into this movie? Because I'm sure I came to you like, we're watching this movie. Originally, you were going to watch Crawl with us. Then Avery's like, I loved Stranger Things season 3 so much. Can we talk about that instead? I'm like, well, Craig's not going to be happy with you.
No, I totally.
And we'll figure out how to punish him.
No, I was totally fine with the switch. What was I expecting? I wasn't expecting as much of a supernatural film as what I got. I thought it was going to be more, I don't know, more like Madman slasher type of thing, maybe, just to start out with. But I knew next to nothing other than I'd seen the cover of it several times, and I'd never even read the description of it, when I was going through things. But like, then I looked at it, and it was really way more interesting than I was expecting. I was just continually like pleased that it was better than I was assuming it was going to be.
Oh yeah, I kind of just, I turned on this movie for the first time when I was waiting on some friends to like move stuff out of my apartment storage room because they moved to Chicago or whatever. And they're like, you're watching a horror movie? I'm like, yeah. And then they kept coming into my room and asking me questions, and I kept being like, like, just like almost like I'm watching porn reaction. And they're like, what are you watching? And I'm like, it's this horror movie, okay? It's creepy. And I guess there's a boob. So, yeah, I mean, my expectations were I'm killing time when I first watched it. But as soon as I saw it, I knew that Avery would really like it. Mm-hmm. He saw it. His texts to me were, this is pretty creepy, man. Oh, it's a witch movie now? Yeah.
It was creepy. I don't know. I felt like there were some. I mean, after I have to say that it was much better than I thought it was, and there were several things about it. Like the moviness of it was very well done. I love the confined space movies. I think that that's a fantastic mechanism for storytelling, and it forces like that creativity. And I thought that was very cool aspect of it, but. I kind of come at like things like in this weird, like I felt like there were some weird plot thickening devices throughout that didn't pay off. I mean, but it was presented in a very shocking, scary way, but the clues were, I mean, there's something to be said for like these clues will mislead the audience in one way so you can surprise them going in the other way. But these were just like cool things to say that never materialized really. I don't know. It was bothersome in that way pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, so when I first saw this movie, my big thing with it was I also like the confined space, 12 Angry Jurors.
Oh my God, that's such, any of them. But the first, 1930 whatever, 4-1 is the fucking greatest. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And also have you ever seen The Man from Earth?
With David Bowie? No, The Man Who Fell to Earth. No, I don't think so.
You might like it. It's like it's like very much in the same vein. It's all in one room. It's all about a guy who's, initially pitching a sci-fi concept, and then it turns out that he believes it to be true. Really cerebral and interesting. It kind of takes a weird turn, but I love the way it's executed. But I thought that the movie was going in this direction of like, number one, an autopsy is always done off screen, which is like, kind of delving into that process is super interesting to see on like in a movie kind of format. But I thought that they were going to take it in like this whole like mystery, figuring out like what happened to her, and then it ending with like a horror twist. Not quite the way that it went, but I was kind of digging those turns that they were taking, and then like because it almost thickened the mystery behind it. Every time there was a turn, it kind of took you away from like, okay, well, I think we don't know what happened here, but then guess not.
Yeah.
It was effective and not.
Yeah, it was odd in that sense that like I don't know that I agree in the sense that I felt like they would send you in one direction and then the stuff didn't pay off in the way that you in the same vein really. Like for example, like the backstory, of like if you think
Mm-hmm.
about like what happened to the witch that was buried. Okay, first of all, like if you know anything about the Salem witch trials, which is what they're referring to, or any of the New England witch trials and any of that, that was all carried
Mm-hmm.
out by pilgrims, by Puritans.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that like she had all of those crazy witchcraft symbols like tattooed on her flesh and that thing shoved down her throat, and they're all talking about how she was created by some weird witchcraft ritual that went wrong. So like
Yeah, like witchcraft to destroy the witch that ended up making the
by
witch.
witches, by Puritan witches, or by, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like that was like something that like I
Yeah.
was like, whoa, what? I mean, that doesn't. I don't know that bothered me, and I felt like there were some other like weird misdirections um, of things too that didn't exactly pay off, or people were unnecessarily stupid about things that were happening. If that makes sense.
I mean, I think yeah, I think that's fair in a lot of ways. I think that like what I guess what I was specifically referring to is like they start out like, oh, her ankles and wrists are broken as if they were bound, her tongue's cut out,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and her waist is very small.
Let me
Maybe it's a
pause you
sex
for just a second.
trafficking thing.
What was the deal with the waist being too small? I mean, I honestly don't. Oh, the
Corset.
corset. Okay, I must have just missed it.
Yeah,
I
it was
I
popular in
must have
that
just missed that,
time.
and the push the ribs in. Okay, okay,
Yeah. So
okay.
she had the really small waist and like the tongue cut out, and they thought that she was sex trafficked,
Yeah, that
and
was all
then
very well
then it
done.
would
Yeah.
change.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then her eyes are grayed, but she's been dead for a long time. But this would be a more or she's not been dead for a long time, but the eyes have already grayed, and then vaginal blood. But there's like she swallowed a piece of cloth, and then they kind of go away from that for a while. They go into the internal organs. It's like there's
And I guess my
scarification
point was is they remain so like just business as usual when like any one of those things would have sent like anybody else that does that normally like into high alert, you know?
Oh, absolutely. But I think it's because they hadn't arrived at an answer yet. I think that they have to be kind of clinical because they needed to finish the whole autopsy and get the cause of
But
death.
even the
You know,
CSI guys would be a little bit more excited than those two dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like if they
yeah,
found like,
yeah,
oh my god, the eyes are different than the rest of the body, just at the crime scene, they would be calling everybody and having a shit fit about that for sure. And
for sure.
these
I mean, I don't know how much the CSIs inspect the bodies
or
compared
the
to the
coroners
coroners, though.
exactly, or well, when they get them in there, they saw any of that, any of those oddities, that would be this huge red flag, and they would like somehow like I don't know with more. I don't know. It was almost like they were waiting for like that 45-minute mark for everything to all coalesce and like the movie to shift that into that second gear. Do you know what point I'm talking about?
Did you realize it was witches? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Did you realize it was witches really early on? At one point, did you kind of
When
glom
they
onto
said
that?
that, oh, she's got peat underneath her nails, I knew I knew that it would be
Interesting.
something like she was buried and she was preserved from a long time ago, and what would be a long time ago, and a female that's scary, oh, a witch.
I thought that she was just like poisoned and like alive, and they were doing the whole. I thought the whole twist was going to be that they were doing an autopsy on an
No,
alive person.
when I also like the broken wrists and ankles is also like traditional like medieval torture sort of stuff too.
That's fair. That's fair. But nothing. Nothing you can't
Oh, that's
recreate
true.
nowadays. I
That's true.
guess is besides the Pete. Like you can break someone's wrists
Well,
and ankles and cut
but
out their
there's
tongue now.
obviously like something supernatural going on. I guess if the
Yeah.
breaks are that fresh, you know what I mean. Like there's going to be some like discoloration um, of the skin.
Yeah, because you're gonna have
Yeah,
bruising.
so there's
Yeah.
obviously something supernatural going on. I would think I would as an impartial layman, I would say that's pretty weird.
Oh yeah. I mean, it definitely was weird. I guess I had a supernatural inkling, but more than anything, I guess I was kind of hoping that it
when
was
did
going to
you
be something
realize it
more.
was a witch?
Um, I probably realized I honestly realized it was a witch kind of late, like when it kind of starts getting spoopy, and like there are people walking around, like the bodies are
Mm.
walking around, but. I mean, like, I thought that there was definitely something supernatural going on. I just didn't expect Salem witch trials, which, I
Mm-hmm.
think that was,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, kind of one of the weakest parts was that twist. Yeah, I think that they could have played with that being more of a mystery. All the things could have gone on without any of the witch
Yes.
pretense, and it would have been just as effective, if
Or
not
they could have
more.
just, like
Um,
you say, very, hinted at like the witch background, and you didn't really know
mhm.
like, oh, is she from the '60s or is she from the late 1800s, or what's going on?
Or
Right.
earlier, when is
This
it? Like, is this Spanish Inquisition? What's
exactly, and
going
keep
on?
it open, and so you have more things to play with. But when you try to like answer those questions very solidly or whatever, it kind of takes away from the scariness a little bit, and the
Yeah, fear of the
yeah,
unknown. Come on, it's the oldest
and
fear.
again, like that, those are weird, like very specific things for the characters to decide, and then act on in a way that like totally influenced the ending. I mean, like they made these wild assumptions that that's what's going on, with evidence in my mind that didn't lead to that conclusion. With the all the witchcraft stuff going on, they wouldn't think, oh, this is obviously somebody that was like tortured by Puritans, you know and they make this conclusion with this, and at the end he's like, oh well, I just got to take away her suffering and it's going to be wonderful, and he's going to save everybody, and he acts on that knowledge that he has made these wild guesses, and it works. And
Yeah, which is weird because like all things considered, our knowledge of the Puritans is all right, but it's not like amazing. We don't understand what happened there to like the same extent that I think that the character would need to know what the proper outcome would
right,
be.
but I think most people realize that like the Puritans weren't like pro witchcraft. They loved torture,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, but they were very into like Jesus.
they were very into. I think that they were very into maintaining power dynamics through fear. I mean, which I think would have made like if they had ushered in like a power dynamic through fear message and used that as a roundabout way to infer the like that the witch
Mm.
was manipulating things and kind of bringing things full circle in almost a puritanical way, that would have been dope. I don't know how exactly you would execute that properly, but that would have been something I really would have liked to see.
That's interesting. That would be a aside from like it makes me like the worldview of the Puritans were not. Yeah, it's interesting because the Puritans would have been not exercising like a power dynamic in the way that you reference it.
And
You know what
yeah,
I'm
you and I
saying?
would,
They were
yeah.
very much exiles from a rotten
Well, I
world.
think power dynamic through the church. I
Well,
mean,
that was the
it was
community.
what I think.
That was their reason for leaving Europe and living in that environment. So they used that for the cohesiveness of their society. And a witch in that society is like the first sign of the serpent in Eden, in a way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but it's also, I think that it was a response to breaking from
Oh,
traditionalism.
absolutely.
The whole reason why and so they used fear of witches and punishment of witches to, dissuade against premarital sex and things that would be not considered part of the traditional Puritan experience, and they use that as a fear of kind of keeping people in line. I think that it probably not the only reason, but it's definitely in there. I think power dynamics played a big part in the witch trials.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it definitely was like you could see evidence of that in the witch trials, but I think that mostly the witch trials happened because people were really afraid of fucking witches. You know, they had all the other avenues to take care of all the stuff you talk about. You know what I'm saying? In other ways, they were vicious fucking bastards in all these other ways, just through their courts and just regular society. But they fucking were totally fucking freaked out by witches. You know, they were, and that's why I think that mania would spread in a way, like the communist mania, you know, the Red Scare and various other things that happen consistently. It's not. It's because people are truly afraid that, I don't know, the communists are coming to get them. That was a real fear.
Oh, it's spoopy, super scary. My grandfather didn't fight in the Battle of Stalingrad to get blacklisted.
That's an amazing thing. But you just said.
Well, I mean, my grandfather did fight in the Battle of Stalingrad.
But did he get blacklisted too?
I don't think he got blacklisted. He got his own business.
Yeah.
If anything, he got slight anti-Semitism from like 60s Detroit.
Oh, I'm sure he got more than mild in 60s Detroit from that. But I mean, at least he wasn't Russian. You know, if he'd been like full Russian,
he was Polish Russian.
But Jewish kind of saves you from like the full white Russian sort of thing. That's kind of what folks were looking for in those days. You know.
Yeah, he was like he was one of the good Russians that fought the Krauts.
I mean, the Russians really didn't show up until the 90s. Like when in the 80s, in the 70s, when I was a kid, like you didn't like just have Russians that went to your school. You know, they just didn't exist at all. You know, it was not until the 90s in Grand Theft Auto 4 that welcomed them all here.
Yeah. That's a good one. So what did you think of? I'm trying to think of more detail. So, did you like the use of song in this, or did you think it was hokey?
No, I love that sort of shit. You know, like if they use an old song and it keeps like, I mean, I thought the radio was kind of corny, but like I love that sort of shit. I think that's pretty cool. It reminds me of like old like Stephen King movies from the 80s and like Creep Show and those sort of horror movies, and I think that it's fine. The one thing that I did think was unbelievable, maybe the most unbelievable thing in the movie, was that the black guy at the end, when the song came on the radio, he didn't fucking I mean, fuck. I don't know any black man that I've ever met that would tolerate that shit on his radio for more than like 3 fucking seconds before he'd be trying to change that shit.
Where was this supposed to take place?
I don't know. I think like somewhere in this, like Virginia, maybe.
Maybe it's Hawkins, Indiana.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it's all part of the Stranger Things.
He keeps saying up north is where the peat is, so like Massachusetts has to be north of it. And there's a storm coming in off of the ocean, so it has to be somewhere kind of along the coast.
Maybe like Virginia. Yeah,
not Virginia that it was a real storm. I thought that was an interesting touch. But
well, I think that played in really well to like the initial part of the autopsy where the storm's coming in, but they don't really have a supernatural grasp on things yet. It's still like kind of clinical, even though you as the viewer might see it as.
But you got that part when the radio at the end said that this will be the 4th day of sunshine, and so that means that the witch did the whole storm. It was all big fake out. Big fake out. Which is brilliant from a budget standpoint, because you don't have to show like the farm wrecked with a tree falling over or any of that stuff. It was all a dream.
It's all a dream. Yeah, I mean, like the part where they kill off the girlfriend, I thought was actually surprisingly effective. I actually
Yeah,
kind of like that.
I did too, but
Um,
I think that did you get the fact that she was just like, hamburger, when she showed up and then she left and like, oh, I'll be back later, and you're just like, oh, you're gonna be so dead when you come back,
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it was very like it actually,
The way they
yes,
executed it, and like they made it like very like visually hallucinogenic for the characters, and you were kind of involved. And then
yeah.
when
It
that twist happens, you're like,
it
oh,
worked really well, and like seriously, Brian Cox is just fantastic. I mean, he can just pretty much take anything and make it like seem pretty great.
yeah. I mean, I think he did a really great job. And I love the contrast between him and his son, as in terms of just like how seriously they took, like how clinical he was, and how like get the job done, kind of older generation, hard work. You do the job no matter what the outcome. Whereas the kid had like an air of curiosity that
Hmm.
I really related to, because he was almost the POV character
Right.
for everyone watching the movie, and I think that he did a really great job of executing
I do
that.
too. And I really
Um,
actually thought that the scene when they're in the elevator, stuck in the elevator, was actually a pretty good scene. Like that was a good, like, emotional, like kind of character driven little break that I thought was really nice.
Yeah, I think that they did a lot. This is the classic, hour and a half horror movie, and I think they did a lot with that. Anything longer would have been too much. I think that they've really nailed it down with that hour and a half runtime. We've seen a lot on this show, like a lot of hour and a half long horror movies, and they're always great. And then once you push it to 2 hours, or in Midsummer's case, 2.5 hours, you go, ugh,
Yeah. Yeah.
can we cut something? Like this, you didn't really need to cut anything from this. It just had
And I
faults.
can just say that I miss like the hour to an hour and a half long standard movie runtime. I mean, that is perfect for me, and everything is just too damn long. I think that they're trying to give people their money's worth by giving them an extra 45 minutes or something.
Yeah, I mean, granted, yeah. I mean, how much was a movie when you were a kid, Craig?
Oh, how much was a movie when I was a kid? Like for a kid, it was $2.50, and for an adult, I think it was either. I think it like kind of edged up when I was like between the ages of like 7 to like 12, when I was super going to the movies a lot. Like probably for an adult from like
Mm-hmm.
$5 to $6, and then if Star Wars came or something big came, it would go up to like $8 for adults and $4 for kids.
I have to go to a movie at 9 o'clock in the morning to get a $10 ticket for a
Wow.
movie.
And even in my town, up until like I moved away, which was the early '90s, you could always go to a matinee, and it was like $2 or $3.
It's crazy. So I get why you would want to give people more for their money. Uh,
Oh, I do too.
but
Yeah, after thinking about it in that way, that makes sense.
yeah, because the cost has gone up, so why not get a little bit
But
longer
wouldn't
of
you get one
movie?
extra
Uh,
showing if the movies were all like a 45 minutes shorter, and you just made like really good hour and 20-minute movies and charged $2 less? You'd get more showings. But people don't see movies that way, do they?
yeah. No, they don't. Well, especially now they're trying to like appify all movies. Like, you know, AMC, like a ticket costs 20
Wow.
bucks, or you can buy 20 bucks for the month and get to see 3 movies a week. It's like they're just trying to get butts
Mm-hmm.
in the seats, because they know that if you buy popcorn, they're making
Yeah.
more money than like the like weird like $10,000 DVD of Avengers Endgame that they buy and like project from like a projector that you use in a school. Like it's insane. Because when I saw Midsummer, we had an earthquake, and a bunch of people evacuated, and then they skipped back to the beginning of the movie, and it was just the scenes from the DVD.
Wow.
Like they just buy expensive DVDs and play them. It's
Wow.
insane.
Wow. That's so.
It's,
It's so weird. So weird.
yeah, because the cost of distribution's just decreased with that, and so it's like why did they cost more money? I don't understand. everything's getting more efficient and costs keep going up.
Well, that's because there's just fewer people that are going. I mean, they used to be able to, if you sold out every showing and they had an ass in every seat, you could lower the price by so much and even offer more. If people went to the movies like they did in the 20s or the 30s, like you could drastically lower all of that stuff.
Yeah, or, you could lower the cost if these distribution companies weren't so monopolized and didn't sell their movies at the rate they do.
Yes. If you just let all movie theaters go completely like independent and they just bid on how much they would pay for different movies to play, not only would you get a wider selection of strange movies from the past and present and everything, you would I think it would totally control it. I mean, it's a victim of its own monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, like they've used the same formula to do it, and and just haven't made it with the times. But we should probably wrap up talking about this movie tonight because I got to get this edited.
Yeah, we're getting close to the big hour point. So
yeah, because on this show it's only an hour. It's not. How long did we record for when I came on your show?
We can go for anywhere from like an hour and 20 to like 2 hours for a long episode, and then we do little baby episodes that are a lot shorter than this.
All right. Well, shit. Yeah, you do a lot of shorter episodes, which I like the shorter episodes.
But it's been fun to like hijack for the story and kind of drive it around a little bit.
Yeah, we've completely given up on our format. Our normal format is a little different. It's more free flowing conversation, which is fine.
That's more of our format, and I apologize.
Yeah, that's the way you've stolen it today. Also, I've made almost no jokes, as Avery will try and drag me through the episode as I go like, wait, but this joke's about dicks and it's pretty cool.
Do you want to just throw in a dick joke just to get it on the record? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Yeah. So my dick is so medium size.
How medium sized is it? Am I supposed to say that?
Women have no comment. Thank you.
Alrighty. Yeah.
It's not a real joke. It's just a sad reality.
I don't know about the second part, the sad reality part, but it definitely is just barely. It's just barely a joke. Just barely.
That's just like my life, Kraig. So, whenever we wrap up this show, we typically do 3 things. We give 5 words. They can be a sentence. They can be a random string of non-related words that we think best encapsulate the plot of the movie or our feelings about the movie. We give it a rating out of 10, and we tell people whether we recommend seeing it or not. Either one of us can go first. If you need to see how it's done, I can go first, or you can take the reins. I really don't care.
No, you go ahead.
All right. No tongue. No heart. Witches. It's not true. She did have a heart. This movie I really enjoyed. I think it's a really fun, cheap movie that I think does a lot with very little. Definitely recommend seeing it, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, keep it short, keep it sweet.
Okay, I'm still formulating my 5 here.
I'm changing my 5 words though. It's gonna be bloody vaginal secretions not needed. Because that wasn't needed. I didn't need that in my movie.
All right, I'm going. Okay, here's mine. All right.
Okay.
Cat stump, sunshine, bone saw, axes, and bleeder.
Bleeder. Okay, which one's bleeder?
You'll have to watch it again. Bleeder. No, when they cut her like a fish and she starts bleeding. I don't know. That image stuck with me, like as much as anything in the movie.
think they did the blood really
They
well,
did do the blood a lot. And they really, like, the blood really, like, there's a lot more blood than fit in that little bitty jar. When he put it into the fridge and then he opened up the fridge and the fucker was just completely covered in blood. And there were big pools of blood on the ground and stuff. And I'm like, man, that was just like a little fucking, like, jar of blood that you put in there. Like, what is going on with that stuff?
This is no bigger than that was like a blood sample.
And they're all like, "Oh, I'm just gonna clean it up. Don't bother Pops with this. That the blood is like seriously like tripled in its volume in a matter of like minutes. That's just we're not gonna mention that. Just get a mop. Yeah. But
this kid's like going to medical school.
No,
he's
remember at the beginning, he's like, "Oh, this isn't going to be my life. I'm going to go find a fry cook job somewhere that really,
I hear Denny's is hiring. Screw you, Dad. I'm going to go work at Denny's."
And seriously, can I just ask one more question? Like, okay, you're a small town sheriff, right? And you go to a place and there's like a triple homicide that you don't have any fucking explanation for, like, and it's just the weirdest shit that you've ever seen ever. And you think, oh, well, maybe I should call like the county coroner or the big city people to come look at this crime and take it to their like hospital morgue where like it's a hospital and like there are people that will look at it there because it's obviously like going to be kind of a larger crime than I can solve here in Mayberry. Or do I take it to this dude's basement that I know where his
he's not even licensed.
It's just a dude and his kid in a basement, and we're just going to drop all these bodies off here.
Honestly, it might be him. He might have done it. That seems like a guy who could have done it.
Right, but so which one as like a local sheriff would you pick to do if you found the triple homicide?
I mean, I think that I would go for the glory because I'm a glory guy.
Just drop it off with Pops in the basement.
That's why I podcast is because I love the glory. I actually thought of another 5 words. It's for whom the toe bells. Because of the toe bells that they reference once at the beginning and once at the end.
Don't they use it once when every once in a while you'll hear it, but then you don't? I guess they I don't know. I felt like they touched on it more than that. Like when the dad shows up, right?
Yeah.
And he falls, and he does that Alfred Hitchcock fall off the balcony.
Yeah. Brian Cox actually Alfred Hitchcock. A lot of people don't know that about him. Just a little.
He's like 170 years old. Yeah.
It's pretty tight. And that's why he almost hooked up with the witch.
He did almost. He tried to hook up with the witch. It didn't work out the way he thought.
Did they ever find the tongue?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember. I don't think so, no. So they could do a sequel with the tongue.
Yeah. It could be called like the tongue topsy of... That's actually the porn version. But no, I think... I was just so impressed with her as just a body double. How she just sat there and and was able to look disconcerting without being able to see her eyes. And just like,
yeah, it was great. It was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. I think overall, I'd give it like a real strong like 7 out of 10.
Strong 7? I get that. It did have its faults. It wasn't by any means a perfect movie. I think it did some things really well.
I mean, it's almost a classic of that kind of sloppy Carpenter genre of horror, which I really love. It's filmed very well and it's paced just right, and it does a lot of things really well. But it's kind of, it's not a super 1,000 times that you can watch it sort of thing, like that next step up. Like the very best of Carpenter is like you can watch The Thing. I can watch The Thing like every other year and I'm good, You
see... Avery would love having you on. Avery loves The Thing. He tried to get me to watch it. I went, this is fine. Because I hate a lot of movies. But I will say that like the big issues of this movie is just like it falls victim to everything bad about a 2016 horror movie. Like they felt the need to do a bunch of stuff that they didn't have to do at all.
Well, it's the 30-second attention span syndrome.
Yeah, and like, did they think that wearing flannel was cool? Like, there was flannel in this movie, right? Or am I just?
Well, it's Virginia.
Okay.
I don't know. There's always flannel, not southeast. They just kind of keep it alive. God. It's just always waiting down there to come back up and take over.
Yeah, the people who were murdered were actually flannel farmers. How does flannel get made? Is it farmed?
You don't want to look it up. Don't look it up. Just live in ignorance. You don't want to know how flannel's made.
Yeah, never look up how the flannel gets made.
And on that note, I think I'd like to thank you one more time for having me on.
Of course. Where can people find you? I know that you said everywhere on the internet.
Everywhere on the internet, but like get us on Podbean, get us on iTunes. Idiots Discuss the Universe is the handle. If you want to send me an email telling me how I fucked up your favorite podcast, you can send it to idtu.podcast@gmail.com. Or you can get on like Spotify and look at that if you really are seriously wanting for something to do. That's the thing.
What kind of I've tried to listen to podcasts on Spotify. What kind of sociopath?
Oh no, we're the kind of sociopath that not only has our podcast on Spotify, we have playlists that we've made for our fans, our victims, whatever you want to call them. They go there and listen to music sometimes. So that's something that you could do as well. Because we review a lot of music, so we keep it all. It's not very exciting.
No, it's good.
It's okay.
It's
good.
Okay.
It's okay.
I just wish that copyright didn't exist so you could play the whole song, because you play like 10 seconds, you're like, wow, that all that stuff that happened in the middle of that song, and I'm like,
well, that's why we try to do the Spotify, and I guess we could do the whole song, because really, what are they going to sue us for? Really. What are they going to get?
The 30 people that heard this were given free music.
You're dead. We could just talk through it. You can also do that. Play it, the whole thing, and talk through it.
Yeah, you could, if you play and pause it frequently, like those. Have you ever watched like a reaction video where someone's like, I'm going to watch a trailer, and it's going to be a 12-minute video for this 30-second trailer because I'm going to jerk my intellect off for
I've watched as much of that I can handle. I don't know. I'm more of the NPR style where you just play a little bit of it, and then Terry Gross is back. Just talk.
How do you spell Terry Gross's last
name? Grosse.
Should have dropped the E. He should go full in. Just become a scumbag. I'm Terry Gross. Like just a shock jock.
I haven't heard her on NPR recently. Maybe she is a shock jock now. She's doing the Cincinnati morning show.
This is Terry Gross. Oh, be so horny.
Oh, shit. I would move to whatever city that was going on to just so I could hear that daily.
Every day. Just, fan signs in front of her office. People think you're picketing, but you're just a big
every
supporter.
Event that she did locally, I would go to and just stand in the back.
You don't see enough positive picketing, I feel like. I feel like that's something we got to get on. Just like, you know what? I think this is just fine.
People love a crisis. They're just really wired that way. They just can't get them to do the happy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, even people who are like, who wants a free hug? They're just being dicks.
Nobody wants that.
They're just like, no one wants that. Oh, I kind of do.
You should
shower?
Start in LA because that's where the tastemakers live, and just do the friendly picketing. Like if somebody makes a great film, you just hang outside of their house with signs telling them that they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I could be in front of Amoeba Music and be like, hey, they have some decent records in here.
They pay their workers a fair wage. That sort of stuff.
I don't even need to get into their wage. I just need to be like, you know what? This is an okay company.
Yeah. Okay.
Not even too positive.
Don't get very political with it. Just be very bland and just really positive. Yeah. Yeah.
My friend
works here. There is a perfect site.
That just screaming at people as they walk by. Hey,
handing
my
out
friend
little
works
flyers that my friend works at this record store.
Oh, good God. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in to For the Story. Avery and I will be back a little later this week announcing our picks for the month of August. We got some good stuff in there. Bald Men Rise Up. Sorry, Avery. Your beautiful set of hair, you piece of shit. We'll catch you guys next week. Goodbye.
Oh no, that was absolutely fun. So let's do it again soon. Just tell it to me right now. Um, there's a chat. Yeah, just send it to me on Facebook chat. Awesome. Cool. I'll have it out here in a little bit. All right. Bye bye.